Good evening. Welcome to our service of evening prayer with healing this evening here at St. Paul's. Glad that you could be with us to worship tonight here at the end of this week. The order of service, if you'd like, you could download from our website and follow along. And again, we're glad that you're here. Jesus Christ is risen from the dead. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. We are illumined by the brightness of his rising. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. Death has no more dominion over us. Alleluia, alleluia, alleluia. The Lord be with you, and also with you. Let us give thanks to the Lord our God. It is right to give our thanks and praise. We give you thanks, O God, for in the beginning you called light into being, and you set light in the sky to govern night and day. In a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night, you led your people into freedom. Enlighten our darkness by the light of your Christ. May your word be a lamp to our feet and a light to our path. For you are merciful, and you love your whole creation, and with all your creatures we give you glory, through your Son, Jesus Christ, in the unity of the Holy Spirit, now and forever. Amen. Let my prayer rise before you as incense, the lifting up of my hands as the evening sacrifice. O Lord, I call to you. Come to me quickly. Hear my voice when I cry to you. Let my prayer rise before you as incense, the lifting up of my hands as the evening sacrifice. Set a watch before my mouth, O Lord, and guard the door of my lips. Let not my heart incline to any evil thing.
Let me not be occupied in wickedness with evildoers.
But my eyes are turned to you, Lord God. In you I take refuge. Strip me not of my life. Glory to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and will be forever. Amen. Let my prayer rise before you as incense, the lifting up of my hands as the evening sacrifice. Amen. A reading from Acts. Peter, standing with the 11, raised his voice and addressed the crowd. You that are Israelites, listen to what I have to say. Jesus of Nazareth, a man attested to you by God with deeds of power, wonders, and signs that God did through him among you, as you yourselves know. This man was handed over to you according to the definite plan and foreknowledge of God. You crucified and killed by the hands of those outside the law. But God raised him up, having freed him from death, because it was impossible for him to be held in its power. For David says concerning him, I saw the Lord always before me, for he is at my right hand, so that I will not be shaken. Therefore my heart was glad and my tongue rejoiced. Moreover, my flesh will live in hope. For you will not abandon my soul to Hades, or let your Holy One experience corruption. You have made known to me the ways of life. You will make me full of gladness with your presence. Fellow Israelites, I may say to you confidently of our ancestor David, that he both died and was buried, and his tomb is with us to this day. Since he was a prophet, he knew that God had sworn with an oath to him that he would put one of his descendants on his throne. Foreseeing this, David spoke of the resurrection of the Messiah, saying, he was not abandoned to Hades, nor did his flesh experience corruption. This Jesus God raised up, and of that all of us are witnesses. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
We pray together Psalm 16. Protect me, O God, for I take refuge in you. I have said to the Lord, you are my Lord, a good above all other. All my delight is in the godly that are in the land. Upon upon those who are noble among the people. But those who run after other gods shall have their troubles multiplied. I will not pour out drink offerings to such gods, never take their name upon my lips. O Lord, you are my portion and my cup. It is you who uphold my lot. My boundaries enclose a pleasant land. Indeed, I have a rich inheritance. I will bless the Lord who gives me counsel. My heart teaches me night after night. I have set the Lord always before me, because God is at my right hand, I shall not be shaken. My heart, therefore, is glad, and my spirit rejoices. My body also shall rest in hope. For you will not abandon me to the grave, nor let your Holy One see the pit. You will show me the path of life. In your presence there is fullness of joy, and in your right hand are pleasures forevermore. Amen. A reading from 1 Peter. Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. By his great mercy, he has given us a new birth into a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ from the dead, and into an inheritance that is imperishable, undefiled, and unfading, kept in heaven for you, who are being protected by the power of God through faith, for a salvation ready to be revealed in the last time. In this you rejoice, even if now, for a little while, you have had to suffer various trials, so that the genuineness of your faith, being more precious than gold, that though perishable is tested by fire, may be found to result in praise and glory and honor when Jesus Christ is revealed. Although you have not seen him, you love him. And even though you do not see him now, you believe in him and rejoice with an indescribable and glorious joy. For you are receiving the outcome of your faith, the salvation of your souls. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Jesus said, I am the light of the world.
Whoever follows me will never walk in darkness.
The Holy Gospel according to St. John.
Glory to you, O Lord.
When it was evening on that day, the first day of the week, and the doors of the house where the disciples had met were locked for fear of the Jews, Jesus came and stood among them and said, Peace be with you. After he said this, he showed them his hand and his side. Then the disciples rejoiced when they saw the Lord. Jesus said to them again, Peace be with you. As the Father has sent me, so I send you. And when he had said this, he breathed on them and said to them, Receive the Holy Spirit. If you forgive the sins of any, they are forgiven them. If you retain the sins of any, they are retained. But Thomas, who was called the twin, one of the 12, was not with them when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, We have seen the Lord. But he said to them, Unless I see the mark of the nails in his hands, and put my finger in the mark of the nails and my hand in his side, I will not believe. A week later, his disciples were again in the house, and Thomas was with them. Although the doors were shut, Jesus came and stood among them and said, Peace be with you. Then he said to Thomas, Put your finger here and see my hands. Reach out your hand and put it in my side. Do not doubt, but believe. Thomas answered him, My Lord and my God. Jesus said to him, Have you believed because you have seen me? Blessed are those who have not seen and yet come to believe. Now Jesus did many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book, but these are written, so that you may come to believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and through believing you may have life in his name. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you,
O Christ.
My soul proclaims the greatness of the Lord. My spirit rejoices in God my Savior. My soul proclaims the greatness of the Lord. My spirit spirit rejoices in God my Savior. For you, Lord, have looked with favor on your lowly servant. From this day
all generations will call me blessed.
You, the Almighty, have done great things for me, and holy is your name. My soul proclaims the greatness of the Lord.
My spirit rejoices in God my Savior.
You have mercy on those who fear you from generation to generation. You have shown strength in your arm and scattered the proud in their conceit, casting down the mighty from their thrones and
Lifting up the lowly.
My soul proclaims the greatness of the Lord. My spirit rejoices in God my Savior.
You have filled the hungry with good things and sent the rich away empty. You have come to the aid of your servant Israel to remember the promise of mercy, the
Promise made to our forebears, to Abraham and his children forever.
My soul proclaims
The greatness of the Lord. My spirit rejoices in God my Savior.
Grace, mercy, and peace to you in the name of Jesus. Amen. Now, a couple of years ago, I sprained my ankle. I stepped into a sprinkler hole and I twisted my ankle and I thought it was broken. Actually, the story of the spraining of my ankle has become kind of a lore, a comic story in the Crumpholz family. And if you could see Jacob and Luke and Stephanie now, you would see that they are laughing at the thought of this story. I thought it was broken and I thought I was severely injured, so I asked to be immediately taken to the emergency room. I had it x-rayed, but alas, it was just a sprain. But the x-ray also showed something else. It showed bone chips. They couldn't tell, however, if those bone chips came from this injury or if they were already there. Well, there seemed to be at that time, without more conclusive or more elaborate testing, no medical way to tell what was going on in my ankle. I could tell you a number of different stories about ankle injuries I sustained from the time that I jumped off of the play set on the playground in kindergarten, to the time I rolled my ankle on a trampoline in high school, to the times when it froze up and locked up on me in college, all the way to the latest one. And any of those, or maybe each of those, showed up as some kind of a fragment, some kind of brokenness on that x-ray or the MRI, or maybe not. But each of those stories are part of it. Some are funny, some are serious. Each story reveals a little bit about something in me and my life at the time. You see, every injury that we suffer, every wound we receive, every pain we endure, comes with a story. And when we ask someone, would you like to see my scars, we are not most likely asking them to look directly at some part or disfigurement of our body, or to examine the condition of our skin, or even consider the size or the shape of the wound, but we are actually inviting another person to stop and to listen to the story of what happened. We are inviting each other into the story of our lives. The memories that are attached to these scars that we bear, these wounds that we carry, those memories are deep and indelible. In some cases, they are also absolutely vital to understanding what makes us who we are. There are the scars that women carry that tell the story of how their children entered into life in this world. There are scars that many carry that tell about a time that they endured a major life-saving or life-changing operation. There are scars that are now maybe too small even to notice, ancient scars that can serve to remind us of that one day when you were a child, when you fell down and broke your arm, and your mother rushed to your side, saw the injury, and exclaimed, "What happened?" And And there are scars that cannot be examined by X-rays or MRI or visible to the naked observing eye. There are scars that are invisible because they point to those places where our spirits have once been wounded or broken. Perhaps these are maybe the most painful part of our story. Maybe these invisible and unobservable scars are also the most formative and the most important stories about us. But for the most part, we are ashamed to show them, afraid to make ourselves vulnerable by exposing them, lest the scars might reopen into an active wound again. So we move through our lives, locked within ourselves, covering, concealing, and hiding the scars that we bear on our bodies, or our minds, or our spirit. We lock them away in a room by themselves rather than risk the judgment, the shame, and the stigma of our wounds. And so I find it absolutely remarkable to consider that in resurrection, Jesus still bears on his body the marks of his crucifixion. And even more remarkable still, that he makes no effort to hide the shame of the cross, but instead displays them to his disciples as he extends his wounded hand in peace and in forgiveness and reconciliation. He shows the disciples not in some gruesome or ghoulish way that continues to lament the pain and suffering and shame of the cross. He does not show his wounds either as a rallying cry for revenge, or to allow those who inflicted them to continue to exercise any power over him by choosing to hide them away or make believe they had never happened. Jesus' wounds, the scars that he bears upon his body, tell the story of what happened to him. A story that to all the world looked like Jesus' great failure. A story that to all the world looked like his great disgrace and embarrassment. But now, after he is raised from the dead, his wounds tell the story that reveals who he is and what God has done through him. They tell the story that turns out to be nothing less than God's triumph over sin, death, and the devil. Now that he's raised from the dead, the wounds tell the story of his greatest triumph, the redemption and salvation of the world. The wounds he bears on his body are gospel. Scars speak peace. Peace that drives away the fear that have the disciples hiding away. Jesus gives peace, and these wounds and the powers that inflicted them have no more power to hurt or harm. No, instead now these wounds are transformed to tell the story of how he, in obedience to the Heavenly Father, humbled himself and took away the sin of the world. He shows his wounds, his scars, as the good news that takes away our sin as well and gives us peace with God, peace with ourselves, and peace with each other. The scars on Jesus' hand, the wound on his side, also speak of the dawning of a new day, of God's power to forgive and heal what is past. Because the resurrection is the start of a new creation. It is a new beginning. And yes, Jesus is the first to enter into God's new creation, the one through whom it is created. But the new doesn't forget what has come before it or what has happened to bring us to the dawning of this new day. The new creation still bears the wounds and scars of the old creation. But instead now, our fear and suffering have given way as a witness, as a sign of God's triumph, as something that we reveal as joy in the presence of the Lord, because it is God who forgives and heals these wounds. But the marks remain, so that we never forget what has happened, but also to remind us that we never need to fear again the power of our enemy to kill and destroy. And so because of the peace Jesus gives, because of the healing that he gives, because of the way he remakes our wounds, we can dare approach the wounded, shattered Thomas, who stands alone in his grief, isolated in his despair, and we can approach him with a joy that invites Thomas into something new, that acknowledges his suffering all along. What Thomas has suffered and endured has shattered his faith. It has broken his confidence. This was the disciple who, like Peter, had resigned himself in courage to die with Jesus, only to find himself days later scattered and alone while Jesus suffered and died, his hopes of glorious victory or his despairing resignation to an honorable and meaningful death. All of those were broken and died. And now he stands facing the hard work of having to live in the wreckage. The death of Jesus was meant to end this movement for which he had already given his life. And so now, what does Thomas have? He has his life. He has his body. And he carries within himself the wounds and trauma of Jesus' final days. What is it that Thomas has? He has his life, but not the faith he once enjoyed. And life without faith is no life at all. We must never forget that it is the intention of the enemy to kill Jesus, and by killing Jesus, to destroy the faith that Jesus gave and inspired. We must never forget that it is the intention of the enemy to inflict such wounds that scatter and isolate us, leaving us alive but without a faith in God, leaving us alive but alone, hurting, and in despair. And unless we can see the wounds in Jesus' hands and touch the wounds in Jesus' sides, we cannot believe in him or receive the peace that he gives as the risen Lord of all. Unless the story of these wounds is redeemed in our own life and resurrected to the glory of God, we remain lost and isolated and wounded. But by God's grace, and in God's great and abundant love, Jesus enters where we are hiding and shows us these wounds in a new way. He tells us the story that gives us his peace. And in that moment, our faith is renewed, rekindled, and restored, and we are healed. And I wonder if that is not the first work of the new creation. Jesus shows his disciples his wounds. He reminds them of the story. He blesses them with his peace. They are overjoyed that in Jesus' presence, their faith renewed, they're re-inspired, refilled with the Holy Spirit. They're given the authority to bring forgiveness and healing to others. In Jesus' name, they'll be a witness to the wounds, to tell the story of God's love and forgiveness, to give the blessing of peace that Jesus has won. And in doing this, Jesus' followers are sent out to bring healing and wholeness to injured, wounded, and scarred people like Thomas, and like you, and like me. And from the central core of healing and forgiveness, we can reveal the wounds that Jesus has healed in us. As we point to the wounds of our risen Lord and invite him to come with us into this hurting world, to bring that peace that we enjoy. And that is now the foundation of the mission which Jesus has welcomed us into, this ministry of forgiveness and reconciliation, of bringing healing and peace. We continue to show the world the wounds of Christ, even as we tell the story of how Jesus has taken away sin, disarmed the power of death, and brought us and this whole creation to life. And it is through that ministry that the Lord restores people to faith, sustains the fellowship we enjoy, empowers us for ministry. And that is the first miracle of Easter and the promises of Jesus' resurrection. Jesus heals our infirmities and afflictions and gives us peace. The pain of the past is over and done. It is finished, but the scars in memory of the past remain, not as a source of fear and shame and guilt, but as a sign and as a symbol and as a telling of the story of God's love, mercy, and redemption. So where are you this evening? There is no doubt that many of us have been wounded, and many more wounds are yet to come. Maybe we are this evening overwhelmed by the magnitude of all that is going on around us, or driven in our isolation to the edge of despair, wondering what will happen now. There is no doubt that we are seeing in the world around us some of the old wounds that we bear on the body of this country opened again, and old pain revived and afflicted new again. And there is no doubt that we will emerge from this current struggle carrying yet more wounds and scars. These wounds and scars do not have the power to shame us or scare us anymore. The power of those who still today seek to kill and destroy, to insist on their own power and superiority at the expense of any others, that power has already been judged and destroyed by the overwhelming power of the love of the one who gave himself to suffer and die for us, and who is now risen from the dead and holds on his body the marks of his triumph. It is this man, Jesus, the Son of the living God, who still wears the wounds of his suffering as a glorious sign of the good news of peace that he has won. It is Jesus who yet today has the power to heal and to forgive, to bring peace and to make whole. You do not need to hide your wounds any longer. Your scars need not be hidden in shame. You do not have to use them to bring pain anymore. We too can show them to each other and tell each other the story of how we have been saved and redeemed by the love of Jesus Christ. That is the fellowship that we share. That is our membership that holds us together as one. We have been united with Christ in his death and in his resurrection. We have become the fellowship of the crucified and risen Savior. And these wounds and these scars, they all tell the story of God's salvation. That is where we are today. So welcome. Don't be ashamed. Don't be frightened. Don't despair. But peace be with you, beloved child of God. Welcome into the fellowship of the wounded one, dear friends. Welcome into the mission of forgiveness and peace that wounded souls like ours have been entrusted with. In Jesus' name, amen. Our Lord Jesus healed many as a sign of the reign of God come near, and sent his disciples to continue this work of healing with prayer, the laying on of hands, and anointing. In the name of Christ, the great healer and reconciler of the world, we now entrust to God all who are in need of healing. Let us pray. Loving God, our source and our final home, we give you thanks for the gifts of life on earth, for our human bodies and all that you have created. In your great mercy, hear us,
O God.
Merciful God, by the wounds of your Son we are healed. Bring your saving health to all people. In your great mercy, hear us, O God. Holy God, your Spirit came upon us in the waters of baptism and brought us into the communion of saints. Renew in us the grace of baptism, by which we share in Christ's death and resurrection. In your great mercy, hear us, O God. Mighty God, your Son brought healing and wholeness to all. Bring your healing presence now to all who are sick or in pain. Lord, we remember the names of those that we know to be sick, the names of those that we have promised to pray for. We speak their names tonight. Grant hope to all who are discouraged or in despair. In your great mercy, hear us, O God. Compassionate God, the strength of those who suffer, bring hope and peace to all who are in mental, physical, or spiritual distress, especially those who are on our heart this evening, and for whom we have promised to intercede. We bring again their names before you. In your great mercy, hear us, O God. Almighty God, source of human knowledge, give skill, wisdom, and compassion to all who provide medical care. In your great mercy, hear us, O God. Loving God, our Creator and Redeemer, give gentleness and courage to family members, friends, and caregivers of those who suffer. In your great mercy, hear us, O God. God of great and abundant mercy, with your presence, sustain all for whom we pray. Drive away their suffering, give them firm hope, and strengthen their trust in you. Through Jesus Christ, our Savior and Lord.
Amen.
Sisters and brothers in Christ, I invite you to receive a sign of healing and wholeness in the name of our triune God. Those of you who wish may lay your hands upon your heart or upon your heads or upon a part of your body in which you desire healing. You may wish to also lay your hands on your own heart and extend your hand as you pray for someone you know who is in need of healing. In the name of our Savior, Jesus Christ, be strengthened and filled with God's grace, that you may know the healing power of the Spirit. Amen. Let us pray. Living God, through the laying on of hands, grant comfort and succoring to all who are in need of healing. When they are afraid, give them courage. When afflicted, give them patience. When dejected, give them hope. When alone, assure them of the support of your holy people. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen. The peace of the Lord be with you always.
And also with you.
Share a sign of peace with one another, and share in the comment section your peace with those who are gathered with you in worship right now. Our worship continues with the sharing of our gifts and our offering. We offer our gifts and our offerings in thanksgiving for all that God has done for us, for the sake of the mission and ministry that we've been entrusted to carry out in Jesus' name, in this community and around the world. I invite you to give your gift either electronically through St. Paul's website, www.stpauls-edison.org, or by mailing your check, your offering, your money to St. Paul's at 445 Old Post Road in Edison, New Jersey. Through your gifts and generosity, we continue to be sustained in this mission. We continue to look for new ways for us to reach out with the good news and with help and healing to the people of our community. We thank you for your partnership in the gospel. Let us pray. Merciful God, our ordinary gifts seem small for such a celebration, but you can make them in abundance, just as you do with our lives. Feed us again at your table for service in your name, in the strength of the risen Christ. Amen. And gathered into one by the Holy Spirit, let us pray as Jesus has taught us.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven.
Give us this
day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us.
And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory,
forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you for worshiping with us this evening. If you haven't done so already, I encourage you to go to our website to sign up for our email newsletter. In that, you'll find links, resources, letters, all kinds of things that can sustain you and your faith in this time that we are apart, and the time that we're also apart. We continue to work to do things like slowing the spread of coronavirus, of supporting and protecting those who are vulnerable, and of continuing to sustain the mission that Christ has given us to bring healing, forgiveness, and peace to the world in Jesus' name. Now receive God's blessing and peace. May the one who brought forth Jesus from the dead raise you to new life, fill you with hope, and turn your mourning into dancing. And Almighty God, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, bless you now and forever. Amen.